The US dollar has long been regarded as the most dominant currency in the world. However, beneath its global stature lies an intricate web of agreements, historical advantages, and manipulations that have sustained its position. What is a fiat currency? The US dollar, like many modern currencies, is a fiat currency. This means it is issued by a government and not backed by physical commodities like gold or silver. Its value relies entirely on the public's trust and the authority of the government, rather than any intrinsic worth. Other prominent fiat currencies include the euro and the pound sterling. If the US dollar is fiat, why does it dominate the world? The dollar's dominance can be traced back to a landmark agreement in the 1970s between the United States and Saudi Arabia. Under this petrodollar deal, Saudi Arabia agreed to price crude oil exclusively in US dollars. In return, the US pledged military protection and arms supplies. This compelled nations worldwide to trade oil in dollars, establishing it as the world's reserve currency and reinforcing its global supremacy. Has the era of the petrodollar ended? Yes. The US-Saudi Arabia petrodollar arrangement, established on June 8, 1974, ended after 50 years. This shift marks a turning point, challenging the dollar's dominance. How did the petrodollar strengthen the dollar? The petrodollar system required countries to maintain dollar reserves for crude oil purchases. This bolstered global demand for the dollar and entrenched its role as the world's primary reserve currency. What is the current reserve ratio of the US dollar? The dollar's share in global reserves has been steadily declining. In 2000, it accounted for over 70%. By 2024, it has dropped to 58.22% in the second quarter, while currencies like the euro are gaining traction. Gold and the US dollar are incomparable. Gold is a tangible asset with intrinsic value and centuries of trust as a store of wealth. The dollar, on the other hand, is essentially paper with ink, a currency whose worth depends on perception. Even in design, the dollar doesn't match the artistic finesse of French or African banknotes. How is gold manipulated? The US dollar's proponents often manipulate gold prices by leveraging financial metrics such as interest rates, job data, GDP growth, and bond yields. These actions, grounded in fiat currency dynamics, create artificial pressures on gold, concealing its actual value. If the US dollar's global reserve status were to collapse from its current 58% share to 0%, its perceived value could vanish. In such a scenario, the dollar might be considered less useful than toilet paper. At least the latter has practical utility. Without its reserve status, the dollar's ability to influence global trade would diminish significantly. To understand the fragility of this system, consider an analogy. If someone borrows $100 million, fails to repay it, lives lavishly, and asks for another $100 million while repeating the cycle, would you view them as prosperous or irresponsible? The same applies to the US, which continues printing dollars at the cost of paper and ink, fueling debt far beyond control. This raises questions about how such practices genuinely support bond yields, GDP growth, or employment. Currencies historically follow cycles of dominance and decline. For over 50 years, the US dollar has been at the top. However, its influence is gradually waning. Many countries, including BRICS nations, are taking steps toward de-dollarization, reducing their dependence on the dollar. Central banks are purchasing gold aggressively, while some countries explore Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and as an alternative currency. The Indian rupee differs significantly from the US dollar, as it is partially backed by gold reserves. The dollar's perceived strength compared to the rupee often arises from limited dollar reserves in India and the repatriation of foreign investments. This gives the illusion of dollar dominance, but does not reflect its actual economic strength. The US dollar's journey from dominance to potential decline is emblematic of global financial shifts. As nations explore alternatives like gold and cryptocurrencies, the dollar's monopoly is facing unprecedented challenges. Disclaimer: this article is purely for educational purposes and does not intend to criticize or oppose the United States or the US dollar. For more such content, like, share, and subscribe.